Welcome back to episode 2 of Life is an Uncut Film. Today we have a new guest, Mike Pollock. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
No, I don't think. I'm kidding, of course. Sure, I will. Hi, I'm Mike Pollock. I'm an actor, primarily focusing, specializing in the voiceover industry because it's fun and quick and tons of easiness. That's not really a phrase. But you might know me from stuff like Dr. Eggman and the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. Lots of people apparently know me as Mr. Meat in the Keplerian series of games. I've done a whole bunch of anime. I was in 4Kids TV and Fox block of programming. And if you listen carefully, I'm in a lot of commercials around the world, if I'm lucky.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Today, Mike is going to be telling us his story of how he became an actor, well, a voice actor, and how it's influenced his life as a whole. Mike, is there anywhere you would like to begin?
Sure. First, let me specify, because I love to be pedantic occasionally, that voice is a specialization, not a restriction. We are actors. We just happen to specialize in voice. I was in an off-Broadway play a couple of years ago, using my entire body, which still worked. So please, actors, but no need to qualify as voice actor. We just have to know how to use our voices in a different way. I mean that in the nicest possible way. But it is a bone of contention that I love to point out, because we're actors. You just can't see us doing it, but we're still acting. But still, that's not why you go. As a kid, when I was a kid, I loved theater and I loved radio, both probably equally. I listened to the radio. I got involved in school theater, and I fostered those loves throughout my life. Did lots of school theater as a kid. Worked on some college radio programs even back when I was in high school, before college, because it was available. And then when it came time to choose a career, I focused on radio. I majored in broadcasting for electronic media, or producing for television, radio, and film, I think they called it at the time. Got a job in radio, started as an intern, worked part-time at a local radio station, eventually a full-time position at a radio station in Rochester, New York, as a production director. That didn't last very long. I moved into syndication, writing and performing comedy for morning shows around the United States. And all while doing that, still dabbling in theater, doing community theater on the side. So when the syndication world had enough of me, kicked me to the curb, I decided, well, that's enough of that. Let's focus on this acting thing. So I was able to take my voiceover sample, turn it into a demo reel, sent it around. Some anime companies liked it, some cartoon dubbers liked it. And I was able to fall back into that, and it became my permanent avocation. That's something.
That is awesome. I have one question, mainly considering theater. Is theater like...
I can't take questions. I'm kidding. Please go ahead.
So is theater one of the things you wanted to do most, or was that just one of the things that came along that you were like, oh, I'll do this because it might help me?
It was probably one of the things I wanted to do most. The greatest thing about voiceover as an industry is it blends theater and radio quite nicely. You're working in front of a microphone, but you're acting in front of a microphone. It's basically what old-time radio used to be back in the 40s. The BBC, unlike here in the States, carries on the radio drama tradition more so than we do. But it's that same kind of thing. So I loved being in plays on the stage and working with other actors. But one of the joys of voiceover is it's so concentrated. You get to go in, read a script, maybe not even with any rehearsals, perform the scripts and not have to worry about makeup and wardrobe and lighting and blocking, knowing where to go on the stage, rehearsing for weeks on end. You just show up, you can act in a few hours and move on to the next bit of acting in a few hours.
You just get like a lot more done, and it's a lot more focused on getting the work done rather than all the quality of everything else.
Yeah, it's concentrated and efficient, and I find it much more fun because it's like, oh, we just did a short amount of time. So yeah, I mean, I'm still quite happy if the stage wants me. As I said, I did off-Broadway a couple of years ago. Because somebody called and said, we want you to be the play. Play. Haven't done that in a while, but okay. and that worked out pretty well, if I do say so myself.
That's good.
It was my performance was slightly interrupted by a bout of COVID. So instead of a 3-week run, I had a 2-week run, but still my 2 weeks were okay.
Is there any play you want to do? Like, I like a Midnight Summer's Dream. Is there any you would want to do?
Anything that would have me. I mean, I've done my share of Shakespeare. I was Flute and Bisbee in Midsummer Night's Dream, as a matter of fact. And that was great. That was a summer theater program. But no, I love the challenge of any new bit of material. So the show that I was in, you can look it up. I don't think the video exists online, but it was an odd little show called Howl Girl, in which I played a doorman in an apartment building, having some nice dramatic monologues and stuff going on. So sure, that was a pleasure. I just wish COVID hadn't reared its ugly head.
So on the more voice acting note, you've done Sonic and anime dubs and stuff like that. Is there anything around that you did other than voice noting, like a voice acting? Have you done like other games and stuff like that, or?
Sure. If you count from the 4Kids days, for example, it was an Ultimate Muscle game, and I played Meat in Ultimate Muscle. So I was in the associated video game. In Viva Pinata, that was a series of video games that we did a cartoon that was based on that. And I think I was in one of their released games as well. And yeah, a bunch of little indie games here and there. So sure, I am quite happy to. I'm a voice for hire, as we voice apps over professionals love to call it. You need a thing? You got a budget? Is it legit? I'll be there.
Is it so? If it's a company like Sega, obviously, is going to be quite a big voice acting like thing because they're going to need multiple people for a load of other things. Are you going to be like? So if an indie team comes, are you going to be looking at them quite like professionally? Like, are you going to want them to become something big? I'm kind of like going off here, but like, are you looking them in a more professional light, or like trying to make them? I don't know how to explain it very well. Goddamn, but like, yeah. Are you? I've gone. 1 sec.
Okay.
Just like when you go to a company like Sega, you're obviously in this professional light already. If you go to a team like an indie team, have most of them always been more professional anyway, or have they always been a bit iffy on certain things? I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think I got you. They usually need a bit of coaching on how stuff is done, and sometimes we are at odds with how stuff should be done. And when things get extreme, we part ways. But usually, if they're willing to understand what the current state of professionalism is, and they're able to rise to that level of professionalism, then we keep things professional.
Yeah, so like
these days,
I'm guessing a lot of teams have generally worked with you on it, but there's obviously, you said there's probably been a few that also haven't.
Yeah, a couple of situations without naming names. We've had our disagreements, and sometimes the disagreements get a little heated, and misunderstandings perhaps may occur, and then what ways?
As you should. Obviously, the team
possibly better that way.
Well, it probably would be. I wouldn't want to work with somebody who wouldn't understand it very well. Obviously, you've worked with the team of Mr. Meat. Was that quite a good team to work with?
It's a trick question. So pretty much I worked on that on my own. They sensed after I was invited to audition by one of my agents, and they liked my audition. They sent scripts. They sent a few reference samples. I recorded some stuff and sent it back to them. I've never actually dealt with the Keplerian's team director.
Because I was
bizarre.
Yeah, because I was very like, when I saw that it was one of the things you worked on, it was like I didn't even know it was you, but it was also just this very random thing in a line of like TV shows and games list where you had like Sega and different animes, and it was just a very odd thing to see. It stood out quite a lot.
Sure. I love to work on just on stuff. I love what I do. So if somebody comes and again my agents and managers decides it's legitimate, then yes, I will.
And that's a good thing to do, because I especially supporting like small indie creators as myself is just, it's a very cool thing to get when somebody like yourself comes along and starts like trying to help you and supporting you to a certain level and degree, because especially because you're a professional and somebody who's, especially myself, who's a smaller creator, getting somebody like you to kind of boost up and help you is just, it's nice, and it's a friendly way of getting more people like myself to get to the professional level that you also were on.
Thank you. I would like to agree. I bring my own brand of professionalism with me. Sometimes not always agreeing with the other types of professionalism, but as I love to state, words of radio psychologist Dr. Joy Brown, everyone acts consistently with their motivations, intentions, experience, and understanding, and so do I.
We had a few questions just based on your actual story. Was there anything else about your story that you would like to tell? Because you said about the beginning, obviously, but there might be a bit more you want to tell, and there might be a few hiccups along the way.
Well, that's a bit of a leading question. If you're hinting at certain online controversies,
I was not, but I have heard about them. But don't worry about that.
Okay, all right. Well,
when I meant hiccups, I meant like, like just generally you might have, along the way at the beginning, you might have just not got certain parts, and it might have just like let you down a bit, and you might have wanted to stop.
Oh. That happens all the time. We are freelancers. We're independent contractors. We work for ourselves. And this is basically a constant search for work. So I have auditions pouring in constantly, or as close to constantly as I would like to admit. And I submit them all. And as with any actor, you will miss more than you hit. The odds are always against you. So you send an audition, and the common wisdom is you forget about it. If something happens, great. If it doesn't, also great. That's the nature of the business. No is not a no. No is a not now. But just the other day, I auditioned for a commercial 2 weeks ago. Booked the commercial, recorded the commercial yesterday. It was great, and that's exactly what we do. So yeah, it's you don't think about the failures, you think about the successes.
And that's a good way of to do it.
Thank you. I'm competing against thousands of me, and I can't always be the winning version.
Like I myself, I do review videos on like films and stuff. So doing a film review myself and then getting it out is one of the hardest things to do, because obviously I'm not going to be able to get the majority of film reviews I do mainly get trashed because they're either not good enough for what my quality I want, or just I didn't manage to get there in the end. And I think you doing that's, it's kind of like a similar viewpoint for you, where you might start something and then it's just not what you want, so you don't want to do it anymore. And
yeah,
it's like similar for me. We're two different creators, kinda, but it's a link every creator can cross. You're always going to have the similar thing.
Yeah, you just keep doing what you do and hope the people like it. And as much as I don't want this to be a popularity contest, it is. When you're auditioning for something, you are the producer, the client has a sound in mind. And if you're the sound they want, they're likely to hire you. If not, they're not going to hire you. Or maybe you bring something that they didn't expect. And then they say, wow, I want that. I didn't know I wanted that, but I want that. But to the producer, so here's an analogy. We're the buffet. I'm the bacon bits on the buffet. Don't like bacon bits? You're going to pass right by. Like bacon bits? Oh, maybe these are good bacon bits. That's not really the greatest analogy, but I'm just working on it. I'm workshopping. But yeah, we are on offer. if we are what you like, you go to a shop. Ah, I think I'll try this flavor of this thing today. I like it. Or, that's not good at all. So it's an interesting business. Don't worry about it.
So, talking about what you like and what you don't like, one of the questions we got asked was about Eggman and how it's one of your most continued role. Is this just something you've wanted to do across the entirety of your voice acting thing, or have you wanted to kind of stop the role and slow down on doing as much as Sonic content as you has?
I have no desire to slow down. As long as I'm able to work, I want to work. Performing brings me great joy. And without performing, there's not so much joy. So as long as they'll have me, I'm quite happy to provide my services because I like it, I hope, as much as you do. And
I do like it. I think you're an amazing voice actor.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I serve at the whim of the client. So when the client's had enough, they'll move along. That's tough, but perfectly valid. But I'm here to perform, and this is me, and this is what I perform. And I take directions to make myself perform differently. But if I'm performing up to work is about competence at its basic level. So as long as I'm still competent, and as long as work still wants me to work, yes, I'll work. Yes, kid.
As Sega is obviously going to be your client, would you also consider so when they play the games or watch the content you're publishing with you in it, would you also consider the viewer or the gamer the client as well?
They're the consumer, to put it bluntly and rather crassly. But if we think of this as a business model, they are the consumer. They're the person going to the shop and buying the product and presumably enjoying it. But for theater, it's the audience. But still, as an audience member in a theater production, you may have to pay your money to get a ticket to see a show. So ultimately, you're the consumer, but you're also the audience member. You're there to be entertained, and let me entertain you, as they would say in Gypsy. So yeah, I hope Are you not entertained? So I hope I'm entertaining. That's my job. Leave the theater happier than you came in, or if it's a tragedy, sadder than you came in. But either way, you've had an experience, and I hope you've enjoyed your experience. But I'm there to perform and entertain, and possibly enlighten, and give the best stand performance I can.
Without going across to anything too controversial, you've obviously had a massive controversy about your religious opinions, which we're not going to get into at all, because I would rather get away from that. But obviously, some people are going to disagree heavily with you on what you think. So obviously online, if you go online, you're going to see people ranting about you every so often. Is this, obviously, considering that you play one of the biggest characters in the franchise, people might not want you to be that character anymore. Would you consider this anything generally, or is this just, or do you just kind of pass it off and ignore it completely?
If you think about it, and I've thought about it, it's why would you want to hate someone based on their religious beliefs just because they're different than yours? That's discrimination. From what I've been told growing up over my 60 years, discrimination is bad. You don't discriminate. You don't hate people on the basis of their race, religion, creed, national origin, unless they're a threat. And the main reason that I'm having a problem with various enemies who are being fought against is they're a threat. They have said, we want to kill you. We want to eliminate you. I'm probably gonna hate you for that. But that hate is unfortunately justified. If someone is a threat, you've got to fight them. You don't roll over and say, okay, attack me. Here I am. No, that's not how humans operate. But if you hate someone purely because they share a different religious opinion, try to be a little more open-minded. I don't hate people because of their different religions. I hate them because they're a threat. And I have to explain that to people. So in the case of the matter at hand, the homeland of my particular religion faces an existential threat by its neighbors. they are defending themselves. If the neighbors didn't want to kill them, I think the world would be a better place. That's just me. Call me crazy.
I feel you are correct in the way you are. I do feel like a lot of people today are just snowflakes. I myself am a young person, and a lot of people are just blind to common knowledge and facts. If you see something that's
History.
just if you see something that's just polite bullying, you don't just ignore it, you go and face it. And what is going on in the world right now is just bullying and discrimination entirely. But we're not going to get into that because it's not religious. We're on about yourself and your work.
Right.
But obviously, you need to go into certain parts of what's been in your work and everything around that, because it is your life and it is your job. And if something happens as such as a controversy, it is something we need to know around it, because everybody who's going to have a job probably will get into some sort of controversy at some point.
Sure. I've been me for 60 years, and I'm a product of my upbringing and my life. I'm not going to lie about my life at this point. I've been me for 60 years, and sorry if parts of me haven't been relevant as they are now, but I stand up for my beliefs because of who I am. And if you choose to not understand what I'm standing up for, I'm not sure I can help. If you've been possibly misinformed by certain aspects of, let's say, social media, and brainwashing might be a bit of a strong word, we're going to have a hard time seeing eye to eye. That's really unfortunate. And and as much as I don't want to launch into this rant here, that's a discussion for another time. I love to discuss this with people because there's a little education and meeting of the minds that could be done from multiple sides. We could meet somewhere in the middle, but you're not going to meet in the middle if you don't negotiate. If all you do is hate and shun and close your ears and I'm not listening, you're not going to get anywhere. That's no way to live. But enough about that.
That was that was a very interesting rant.
Thank you. I dare say it makes sense, but some people may not agree. That's why we would have a discussion. But
Okay, moving forward just a slight bit. We had a few questions from just viewers of the podcast. One of the main ones was, what was your first interview and what happened to the interview? Like, did you go past it and get the role, or did you not get it?
Okay. I was okay. By interview, you mean audition. I was thinking an interview was
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. Audition for the first role.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's okay. It depends on what we consider the first role. If it was the first role in theater, it would have been in grade 3, a school pageant where we played sheet-wearing Roman citizens, I guess. Yes. I'm not sure that would count as an audition. That was pretty much a class assignment. The entire class was in the show. So as far as an audition for an actual role where it would have been just me assigned to a role, I'm going to guess that would have also somewhere in school. I'm going to say middle school, intermediate school. I guess I'd say get some auditions, but I'm trying to remember the first school show I did. I'm going to actually leap ahead to high school, which would have been where we did a bunch of plays. And I did things like The Mouse That Roared. I was Professor Tokens. We did Girl Crazy, a 1930s musical where I was a member of the chorus. I'm trying to remember if I have specific memories. I don't remember not getting the audition because that just becomes commonplace. But in school, I was in a lot of shows. It means I essentially booked a lot of auditions. If we're looking at the first professional audition, I guess we can count during my radio career. I got talent fees, as we call them. When you're at the radio station, you're on salary, you're doing whatever the radio station wants you to do. But then a couple of times, if you get a commercial role, for example, at another radio station or an outside studio, you get hired and you paid a talent fee. And I did a few of those for local furniture stores. I was able to sound like a popular set of commercials that was running. Let me see if I can give a sample. You've read about it. You've heard about it. Now it is here. And I heard those commercials. They were very annoying. I started doing an impression of them. And then the local furniture company who would normally buy those from an outside production house said, wow, can you do that for us instead? We'll pay you. Well, sure. So I was the local commercial spokesman, ripping off from their usual commercial supplier. I guess that's noble, but okay. So yeah, there was that.
That was very, very interesting to say. So for the commercial, did they? So they just had somebody already, and then they heard you and just completely removed the other person.
Yeah, there's the way I understand it. That particular company, I'm not sure if it still exists, made commercials for furniture stores around the country. Basically, cookie cutter things like, and we'll customize it. We'll do one for you. We'll do one for another furniture store in another city. And that was the business model. And they happened to use a very distinctive sounding voiceover guy for the exact reason why you would expect that. He's memorable. And he was so memorable that I couldn't help but work on an impression. And my impression was so good that when the furniture store would also come into our radio station to do some other commercials, word got around and they said, hey, listen to Mike. He does an impression of your commercial guy. And I did it and said, wow, that's great. Would you do that for us? Sure. So I did a few.
Did you not feel guilty taking it away from somebody though? Or is it just, is it for you just part of the business that you might get the role over somebody else?
At that age, no, because I was in my 20s and what did I know? It was just cool to get a role. If it were in a different context, for example, when auditions come in saying, we're trying to voice match this character. And if it's somebody that I know, I would say, wait, I know him. Why don't you get him? But in this case, they were buying from a service that probably charges a lot of money. And I was working cheap at the time. If they want to save some money and give me a gig, I'll take a gig. But I ultimately, I did not threaten the business of the production company. They were still making commercials for others, probably still are, don't know. But I don't know that I was taking away from the business to that degree. If you think about it, scale of local furniture company in medium-sized city, it was a couple things, a one-time gig.
Fair enough. We have another question, which just come in right now, which was, do you prefer recording solo or with other voice actors?
Some and some. Solo with just a director and engineer is great because I get to be the center of attention, which when you're an actor, look at me. That's great. But when you're working ensemble style, even remotely, which is the norm these days, getting able to riff with other actors in real time and laugh and cry together and make magic together, that's really special. That is just unfortunately not the norm most of the time.
Would you prefer to do it with other voice actors more often than being alone?
Yeah, logistically that's a little tough. You've got to get everyone and schedule this thing up. And Carol, I'm going to be available these 4 hours on this day. Not always easy. But also part of the wonderful thing that I love, the magic of what we do, is if you do it right and we record separately and they assemble it later, you as the audience can't tell because we mesh so well and they assemble so well.
So I played Sonic Frontiers, and that was when playing that game, the conversation sounded like you were just doing it solo, and then they were kind of like going into it, like they were cutting the clips into it. I don't know if you know about any of that or anything.
Well, like with most of the Sonic games, we recorded separately. Excuse me, but we were also given specific directions. The thing about Frontiers that has caused a little controversy on its own, when I started that recording session, the director said, okay, we're going for a much more grounded, naturalistic sound. So we got to play things differently. So everything became a little more toned down, which critics will say, God, it sounds so absorbed and uninterested. Really? Acting choice. Hello. Um, so it's possible because the delivery was not as bold and boisterous and loud as normal that the production process affected the overall sound. I don't know. That was not the intention, to my understanding, but that was the biggest note that I heard about Frontiers. While people loved it, the voice directions raised eyebrows. But that was the reasoning. And as with any production, I am playing to my director. And when the director feels they have what they want, they let me lead. So it's not all me. It's a collaboration of me and the director and the production team. And when they get what they want, we're done. They move on to wherever else they're recording. So they got what they want. I gave them what they want. They seemed happy.
I don't know if you actually played Frontiers or not, but when I played it, it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite to play because it just, especially because a lot of it was different to what I had usually seen. Because I was used at that point, I was used to 2D games, especially Sonic. Because I'm not a dead set on Sonic fan, I'd say. But from a standpoint, it was really different to the point where it was unlikable for me. I didn't like it. I don't know what you thought about it though.
I'm not a gamer. That's one of the things that I have to explain to people. I'm an actor and I act in things that are sometimes games. Games don't necessarily hire gamers because when you're in the booth reading a script, there's no controller, there's no gaming screen. It's a script and it's a theater piece. It's a radio play in our case. So I can't approach games as a gamer because I don't have the coordination, the aptitude, the patience to play a game that way. So I'm there telling the story more than anything else. But from recording it, it was a different challenge, and it was a bit of a challenge when I heard playback when we went from one session to another session a few months later, and they played back a reference, and I said, "Wow, I'm barely doing a character there." But okay, that's what you wanted. I guess we'll keep doing that. So it was noticeably different, but again, the production team, the director, they're in charge. They're getting what they want, and they have to believe I've given them what they want.
Have you ever wanted to play? Like, have you ever either played a Sonic game or wanted to play one? I don't know. I've just said this.
No, I've watched people play the games. I'm not a gamer. I don't. That does not grab my attention that way. But one of the joys of doing what we do is the versatility. I've voiced commercials for medical products. You don't want me doing the surgery.
I'd be terrified. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly. I'm the storyteller. I'll provide the theater and then let the theater experience do what it's going to do.
Because I think I would never be able to voice act just because I have a very, I say squeaky voice, being real. But like, I would always love to play my own. With me being in a game, I would always want to play it. But I think that's just because I'm a younger person, and seeing myself in a product, like a big product, would be awesome to see.
It is. I will admit that first person. But yeah, I'm again a product of my upbringing. When I was a kid, I'm guessing somewhere when I was probably 10 or 15, whenever Pong came out, we had a Pong game. Even that didn't hold my interest. It's basically table tennis on a screen. I was more interested in a screensaver between the games. Like, wow, cool, pretty colors. But the action game itself, I got bored. I got bored pretty quickly. I had some handheld games at the time. And again, they were so primitive that you could eventually figure out the patterns of, oh, if I do this and then this happens. And then I figured out the pattern. I kept beating the game. I got bored. So yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could be a gamer for the benefit of those who are gamers, but my hobbies are listening to radio and podcasts and chopping up radio shows to listen later as a podcast. So that's my hobby. You don't have to like it, but we all have different hobbies.
Obviously, when you're going to cons, the majority of people who are gonna see you are gonna be massive Sonic fans. Are you gonna So you obviously they're going to ask you tons and tons of questions that I could dream of asking because I don't know anything about Sonic. But do you how much do you know? And like, if they were to ask you questions, would you just like would you try to divert it to something else, or would you just try to tell them what you knew?
If it's lore questions and backstory and stuff, yeah, that one of the other joys of doing what we do is all the information I need generally is contained within the script. I retain a bit of knowledge from everything I've ever recorded, I guess. So if something comes up, I can say, oh, wait, I remember that from that other thing. I think we pronounced it this way. But beyond that, especially in voiceover, where we don't have days and weeks of rehearsals, I go in cold, read the script. The director tells me what the game is about. I try and pay attention and retain that for at least the duration of the session. But that's not really our purpose. As much as fun as gaming is, when it comes down to business and the production of how games are done, we are based on efficiency. The whole voice recording process is when the script is done, bring in the actors, because actors are expensive. You don't, as fun as we are to be around, you don't want to have the actors around more than we need to, because then it costs more money, and that's your bottom line. So when the script is done, they call us in. They may call us in again in a few months for some more fixes and additions. But generally, people think, oh, you're so busy working on Sonic all the time. I'm not going to Sega, sitting at a desk with an Eggman nameplate, doing Eggman stuff all day. The world ain't like that. When they need me, they call me. We spend 4 hours recording. Maybe you don't get everything done. We'll come back a few days later, do a few more hours. And then my stuff is in the can, and the developers are doing whatever they're doing with it. I am not there all the time. They don't need me all the time. So when I'm doing what I'm doing, I know the context, or at least I sound like I know what I'm talking about. But at conventions far removed from the recording process, I can't have those deep lore discussions that people want to have. I am, again, love being Sonic, love performing Dr. Eggman, but it's just one of the things I do. No one's going to come and ask me about the commercial I recorded the other day, or the medical product that I read all the side effects for. That's not what interests fat convention attendees. And I get that, but I am looking constantly, because I'm constantly with myself, at the vast majority of other stuff I'm recording. And none of it really to that degree, because you're focused on the job at hand. And then as soon as that job is done, you've got to go look for more work. So I'm focusing on getting the work and performing the work while I'm performing it. But the retention isn't really there, because it doesn't have to be. There's not generally a pop quiz on what we just recorded. Was that good? Did you like that? We did our thing. Yay. Love you. Bye. Gotta go. But it's not, the naysayers will say, oh, so it's just a job to you. That is the job. That's the nature of the job. It's a job that I love. If you're a Sonic fan, you're going to want to hang around after the recording sessions and chat with the production team. Chances are the production team's got other people to record. They're not going to want to sit and chat. They got work to do. So I would love to be as deeply entrenched in the franchise as fans are. And I love the fans for that, but it's not that kind of relationship. It's not practical to be deeply entrenched in one product at the expense of all the other stuff I've got to do and all the stuff I want to do.
Obviously, you are Dr. Eggman for most people. Is there anything that's ever like kept you motivated and engaged to actually stay in the role, except like actually doing the role itself and earning the money off it?
It's fun. Performing brings me joy. What's not fun about going into a studio and yelling your brains out and acting like a different character for a few hours? I'm an actor. That's what I do. It's the passion that actors have. You can't always explain it. Well, as to quote the Candyman in that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, You ask a bird why it flies, or a fish how it swims, or fish why it swims. No, they do it because they were born to do it. I was born to be an actor, and I love doing what I do. I'm good at it, and people like me and have me ask me to do more of it. It's kind of addictive that way, but it's what I do. And again, it's not just that while Eggman is great, I don't hold, I don't single out any one role because it's not fair to all the other roles. I am there to bring the 100% of my performance to whatever I'm doing, whatever that may happen to be. You know, the commercial I did the other day, Sonic fans would find it boring. It was a boring narration. It was comedic boring narration, but I was there because I won a difficult competition against my colleagues and among other actors to win a role. And I was the guy they wanted. So there I am sitting here in my home studio recording this otherwise boring but comedic narration. And that was great. And we had tremendous fun and they were extremely happy. But it's not, how do I put that into better words? I love doing what I do when I'm doing it. I want to do more. I want to act as often as possible. And Sonic is a delightful stop along the road when I'm doing Sonic. But as soon as Sonic is done, I need something else to do.
So when obviously you do a lot of indie and you separate from Sonic roles, are you more forgiving and like, so obviously without going into like payments and stuff, do you give more of a chance to indie companies and stuff like that to give you their budget to do it all and stuff like that?
As I'm working now with the coalition of dubbing actors where we're maintaining minimums, I have my minimums. I have there's union scale pay, which is just all the union people at a certain level of union status all get paid the same, that scale. And for other stuff I do that's not union, I have minimums. I have a rate card that I generally rely on and say, there you go, this is what this is going to cost you. I can make a little concession here and there, but there are industry standards, even among the world of non-union, and I've got to keep to that.
Do you feel you're one of the cheaper like voice actors on the market for like if you wanted somebody big? Do you feel like you're somebody you could rely on and you're quite helpful for anybody?
I would consider myself a scale actor. When they book celebrities for things, they work above scale, so they get a lot more than the folks like us who work at scale. But no, I'm my minimums are based on the Global Voice Acting Alliance's minimum chart, and I don't go below those minimums, at least not greatly below those minimums. So no, I don't work cheap because we have standards and I have to maintain them.
As we're getting to the end, because the meeting's gonna end because I didn't think about that.
Right.
But obviously, one of the things most people are gonna want to know is, do you have any advice for voice actors or just creators in general?
If you want to be a voice actor, first be an actor. Remember how I started saying, no, voice is a specialization. Yeah, you got to be an actor. Learn community theater, school theater, learn to be on stage with people, acting with people. Because when you're, in most cases, doing voiceover, you're going to be alone in a booth or your home studio working with a director or an engineer, and you don't have other actors to play with. You're in a scene with other actors. If you're recording a dub, they may have already recorded, and you can play against their previous recordings. But if they haven't recorded, and it's you says, hey, you've got no one else to act against. So you've got to imagine the stuff that's going to precede and follow your dialogue and make your dialogue fit in. Ultimately, that's the director's job to make sure that the stuff you're recording will fit in with the project as a whole. Sometimes it doesn't, and it's fairly obvious that somebody gave a line reading that did not depend on the line that came before. Not great. But learn to act with people so that you get into a booth and learn to act without people, because a lot of the time that's what you're going to be doing. If you have money to invest in a coach, get a coach. Get some coaching, maybe have parents subsidize your education, which will ultimately pay off. The coach will help you break down scripts and learn character interpretations and teach you about other genres that you might not consider, but are equally lucrative. Because again, as an actor, your goal is to work as often as possible, and work doesn't grow on trees. So you want to work in as many genres as possible to add to your versatility. So also coach you towards making a demo, another expensive product that they sell, but you need a demo to market yourself. So that send basically your calling card. Here's a sample of stuff I can do. Oh, great. Here, now read this audition for us, and we'll see if you like you for our project. Put it off and starts with a demo. A coach will help you do that. And then once you've fulfilled all the coaching and got your demos, market yourself, audition for as much stuff as you can, learn to accept rejection. That's the nature of acting. And have yourself a blast, because this is a blast.
That was beautiful to hear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So as we're ending now, is there anything you would just want to say quickly?
To
Before
the
we end?
supporters, thank you for your support. To the detractors, really, you sure about that? Okay. But other than that, thank you for watching and listening, because otherwise I'm wasting my time. Follow me on social media. There's not much happening there because people are people. But it's a Mike on X. Is probably the main place to find me. Google me for other stuff. Maybe don't Google me right now, but find me.
I'll put you in the description. Don't worry. It is lovely to have you on, and
thank you very much.
It's been great to hear everything you've got to say.
Thank you for bearing with me. Thanks for letting me rant.
And thank you for the
ranting
viewers.
To be had, but we don't need to turn this into a Mike rant session.
We might have you back on one day, just maybe. It's lovely to have you on, and thank you. And to the viewer as well, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.